Okay. All right. So Nick, here we are. We're actually live. We're live on
Here we are.
Facebook. How are you?
I'm doing well, Bob, and hopefully
Very
you
good.
the same.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So, so Nick, I want to welcome you to our broadcast here. As you know, we've been interviewing the candidates who've opted to do this because a lot of residents have been asking for some opportunities just to get to know the candidates running for the Board of Ed seat as part of the Westwood Regional School District. So, you know, we've interviewed Jay and we interviewed Andrea, and now we've got you. So I want to welcome you today.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And I want to thank you for the opportunity. And I get to talk about my two favorite things, school leadership and problem solving. So
Awesome. Oh, you're a problem solver. Okay. That'll be good because we'll definitely talk about that a little bit. So, so like I had said before, you know, this is really just a forum for all the candidates who want to participate, just to really a venue for people to get to know who you are if they don't know you. And so I've lined up some of the questions to really get to, you know, your why a little bit and some personal, but then into some of the issues and some of the areas that would be important for the role itself, right? Or if you were to get this seat. So, you know, thanks again, Nick. I appreciate your time, and here we go. So, well, first thing I would love to do is if you could just introduce yourself, and maybe, you know, those who don't know you, just give a little bit of your background. Like, you live in Township of Washington, et cetera. So maybe you could just give the participants and the viewers some of that information. That would be great.
Absolutely. So Nic Nese, born actually in Hasbrook Heights, New Jersey. Me and my wife, Janelle, we moved to Washington Township about 7 years ago. The end of this month will be the start of year 8 for us. You know, went to a parochial school in high school up in the area in Montvale. I had sisters that went to school at IHA in Washington Township.
Okay.
And growing up, I always knew Township was a beautiful, quaint town, and it was always someplace that I aspired to, you know, one day reside. And so when me and my wife were looking for a home, we knew that Township was a great place, and that the Westwood Regional School District was a good option for our kids. So that's how we selected it. I have 3 beautiful daughters, one who is currently a 6th grader, one who is currently a 4th grader, and then the youngest, she's only 4, and she's a late birthday. So she probably won't be joining the school district until the following school year. But, you know, we're vested. We're in this for a while, and we're excited to live in Township. And, you know, me personally, I've been in education for over 20 years. I've been a school administrator for 15 of those years. I've worked at a parochial high school. I've worked at a small public school in Bergen County, very similar to the Westwood School District. And I currently work at a very large, one of the largest high schools in New Jersey, vocational school out in Wayne. So, you know, I've experienced many districts. I've had experience and exposure to many different communities. I feel, you know, I've got my pulse on what makes a lot of them work. And I want to apply that experience to the Westwood Board of Education for the betterment of all of our children.
Okay, great. So with all that experience, I mean, that really could be helpful for this role, and you want to take some of that on. So that's awesome. So I guess the next question is, you know, what is your why? Why are you wanting to do this? Like, what is your motivation to want to run for this seat?
Well, it's not because I have a lot of free time. That's definitely not in the equation.
Right.
It is, you know, we had some experiences with the Board of Education starting in late 2019. We were at a lot of meetings in person. Obviously, things changed when we kicked over to the pandemic, but we were very involved. You know, we had a 6th grader who was going to the middle school. It was going to be a new experience for 6th graders. You know, the schedule came into play. There were some, you know, major concerns that, you know, you want to be a part of that decision-making process and at least hear it firsthand. So my wife and I became very involved. I wouldn't say that was the case from K-5. You know, our oldest daughter does pretty well in the classroom, and, you know, we never really were greatly concerned with these overwhelming issues. But, you know, moving with our 2nd child in the district and then eventually our 3rd, you know, attending and seeing those Board of Ed meetings virtually now, which is probably one of the benefits that's being exposed through this pandemic. You kind of got the feeling, you know, I can do this. I can be a great leader. A lot of the stuff that they're dealing with, I deal with firsthand. My wife is also a school administrator. So when we go home at night, the conversations are about education. They're about what's going on, what's coming forth from the Department of Education, what are districts doing. That is pillow talk in my house. It is about educational leadership. So going to these meetings, you just kind of felt, I could be a huge benefit, to the district. I can be a huge benefit to the board. I bring a lot of working knowledge to the table, and all for the benefit of our children directly, but then everyone's children, in a sense. So
absolutely,
that's my why.
Okay, great. This actually kind of leads us into the next question is really about the qualities that you have for success in this role. I think you have described some of those. Any other qualities that you possess that you think could be successful for you to take this seat if you were to win?
Yeah, so listen, my leadership style personally is a democratic, so whether it's me dealing with my coaches and or teachers in the building now, it is coming to a consensus and pushing forward the best laid plan. So, I think my leadership style kind of lends itself to that. I like to consider myself a highly educated person. Like I said, this education is my pastime. So I think I've got a good working knowledge with it. And, for me, we joked around at the beginning. I said, hey, school leadership and problem solving, that's the business I'm in. As the director of athletics currently here, I have 13 years under my belt as a school administrator in that role. We problem solve daily on the fly, and we look to appease the community as best we can while doing the best for our student athletes. So, to put that into real world use is what I'm looking to do. And like I said, I think I could bring a lot to the table in regards to knowledge and what it takes to be an effective school leader to the board.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I've done a lot of research, and I was on the Google, as I've been joking with everybody, kind of like looking at past accomplishments and things that have been accomplished by the board as well as the school district itself. So things that stand out are like the middle school and that happening, which has been a great accomplishment. So what do you recognize as some accomplishments over the past few years? And is there anything that you think that could be further improved upon? Like it's maybe there's always some opportunity for some improvement. So
yeah, definitely
good, and then what can you improve upon?
The middle school project right now is probably one of the prized accomplishments for the district. That's something that was a long time in the making, and it was a huge accomplishment. There's no doubt about that. Other things have been, our facilities on the whole, whether it's the improvements at the high school or, to the fields or concession stand or press box. There's no doubt that when you attend these events that you can see from a facility standpoint, the district has an excellent plan and is moving forward to that. Obviously everyone at some time or another wants to become a resident expert on how schools should improve. That doesn't mean that they necessarily hold water, but that does mean that they should have a voice and the district should listen to. So I know at the beginning of this school year, ventilation was a concern, air conditioning was a concern. All those things come with time. And it was amazing that every teacher in the district was an HVAC specialist when it came to opening schools. So, we know there's areas to improve there. Some of those projects, might have come up short. We looked at the great work that was done at the middle school. I thought that was a key opportunity to capitalize on some field improvements over there as well. Maybe secure turf. I know a couple of years back we went to referendum for Memorial Field to attempt to turf that project. It kind of fell short. I think those things can be revisited, and there's some areas to improve. And the be all end all of it is we're doing this for education purposes as well.
Right.
So to improve the academic nature of the school would be nice as well. We are a district that is surrounded by some heavy hitters. Northern Valley school districts are excellent schools. Pascack Valley are the same. Paramus last year was on the AP honor roll. Ridgewood has their tradition of excellence, as they like to say. We pay a lot of money in taxes to live in a very affluent area, and we expect the best for our kids. So, if you want to default to test scores and seeing improvements there, there's a necessary need for that. It doesn't mean the Westwood doesn't do well. I think they do well, but it is
there's opportunity, right?
Yes. How are we going to move forward? How are we improving on that?
Okay. All right, great. Before you talked about ventilation systems, and it kind of takes us into the safety question, I guess, right? So we know how crazy and challenging this year has been. And, when it comes to safety and, physical safety, just health safety with everything that's been happening with COVID and just what we're seeing in the news, what any other opportunities that you ensure that when it comes to health and safety, like ideas or concepts that maybe you think that can continue to be improved upon when it comes to health and safety of everybody, basically, in the school
Correct.
system?
I will say this. Currently in my position here, I chair a subcommittee for our pandemic response team. So meals and transportation is my wheelhouse, and that's currently what we work for here. At our current school right now, we are full day. We are providing lunch to our students. So, I like to think we're doing everything in regards to, the recommendations from the CDC and the Department of Health to get it off the ground running in the most healthy, most safe environment that we can guarantee.
Okay.
Again, I bring that experience to the table. The conversations that I'm having in my 9 to 5 would be the same things that we bring to the Board of Education, and asking the right questions and making sure policy and procedure is safeguarding our kids. And I think that gives me, a leg up, per se, in a lot of these conversations. In regards to the safety of our students, I think actually the safest place for them is to be in school 5 days a week. I think right now the hybrid schedule is working, but we have to see the district take definitive steps towards advancing their phase 2 plan. What's next? How are we progressing? I know personally, and I thought I would never hear this ever, but my 2 daughters want to be in school all the time, every day.
That's been a consistent theme of every candidate so far.
Yeah. So,
yeah, they're, I think they want to go back. They miss their friends. They want that interaction with their teachers, I'm sure. So
without a doubt. So the phase 2 plan and communication of a phase 2 plan, I think right now it's imperative. It's pretty important. And, I would say even if it's 5 days a week, but it's the minimal day, schedule in order to benefit teachers and, allow for cleanings to take place and ensure that, our buildings are safe. I think those are important steps. But right now, I think the word safety should not only, be framed for the virus, but it also be framed towards the development of our children.
No, absolutely. It's a great point. Let's talk a little bit about communication. So I got a couple of friends who have got kids in the district. I've said this to all the candidates so far, and they really talked about just how, I guess, the school district has pivoted in this time. But in regards to communication, it's really been great communication, right? So with scheduling, or if there's changes that are going on, a friend of mine was like, I get emails from the principal all the time. So when it comes to communication, I mean, do you think has it worked well? Has it pivoted enough? Like, is there any opportunity for improvement in that space at all, do you think?
Well, so I will say this, pre-pandemic, our experience was mainly, the elementary school. And, I thought in that regard, the communication from the elementary school left a little bit to be desired. I get it with the middle school and the high school. We're trying, to make our kids a little more independent. I get it. Without a doubt, communication has improved during these times with the pandemic. A lot of it because of necessity. I mean, there's, different plans going forward. There's different procedures going forward. All of that has to be expressed. I am very pleased with the things that are coming out of the middle school right now. I think their school leadership is doing an excellent job. So, I'm intrigued. I don't know if it's just a natural change that I'm experiencing, or if it's just a different animal in that arena.
Okay.
Communication is a key. My slogan there is time to act.
Right.
That is the acronym for accountability, communication, and transparency. Good, bad, or indifferent. If you are regularly communicating, you're not going to let your community down. That's what's important. So, it's good to see that communication is solid. We could always do what we can to make it better. The accountability in that one is not necessarily for the Board of Ed, but me personally.
Just in general, right, for yourself.
Knowing that with Nic Nese, the term accountability is you can hold me accountable for decisions and discussions that went from there. And I'm a resource for you to reach out when you do have questions or concerns. And, So those three letters, that acronym, it pertains to what you're going to get from Nic Nese.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Any other issues that you think are facing the district right now? Like, is there one issue, two issues? Like earlier, the candidates had talked to, or this has been a hot button issue, I guess, in regards to classroom size. Like, is that a major issue, do you think, or is there something else that's kind of in your mind that you think could be improved upon?
No, I mean, you're seeing it. If you look at the last three report cards from the Department of Education, that K grade has been growing for the last 3 years. So you can see it's going to be a real problem for the district. Now, that doesn't mean that the next three classes following that don't change, but districts do this all the time. Sometimes you'll work through a bubble, and sometimes you'll find that the bubble is a little more permanent. You have to have a real-time solution. So there are things that you can do as a district. Redistricting is a possibility. Placing a focus on your buildings and what they do and specialize, whether it's switching to a K2 model or moving away from township one school, Westwood. All those things kind of come into play. And then you can get to, you dictate based on the building size, how you can effectively manage your classroom. So there are options out there, and it's up to school leadership to determine, how pertinent they are.
Okay.
I would think after 3, possibly 4 years of increased enrollment, especially in those K2 classrooms, we need to move.
It's getting strained a little bit, right? It's getting, a little bit more difficult. So, okay. All right, great. Thank you. You talked about accountability before as part of your acronym there. So that is actually one of my questions, because I've seen that's been a common word or phrase that's been used even over the years, right? So you had kind of described accountability. Why is accountability important to you? Why is it important in this role?
Yeah, so I think what happens a lot when you're one of 9 members of a board of education, people think that you vote in unison. And I can't say that 9-0 votes are a good thing. I think you have to have differences of opinions. I think you have to be willing to share those difference of opinions with the community, with the public. And I think that comes from an effective line of questioning, that appears with a lot of these topics. The Board of Education is not responsible for making policy. They're in charge of approving policy, which is a big difference. You need that coming from your school leadership. And that really, that really dictates how you as a board receive, accept that, and push it forward to the community.
Yeah.
So, in regards to accountability, I'm not saying the board needs to be accountable. I'm saying Nic Nese as the individual is accountable. And I think professionalism comes into play. But if you're communicating and you're transparent, you're not trying to pull a shell game on anyone. I think accountability is easy.
And sometimes that could be pretty obvious if that's happening, right? Like the shell game. You could.
Well, listen, we've all experienced it in some way, shape, or form in our lives. You hope that it doesn't come into play in the education of your son or daughter. And my statement is, that won't be the case when you go for Nic.
Okay, great. Let's talk a little bit about budget. With budget and kind of utilizing budget, thinking about the learning needs of kids in schools. How would you, is it possible, do you know yet, how would you prioritize learning needs versus the budget and kind of utilizing the budget for what the voice of either the schools are saying or the parents are saying? Like, how would you kind of manage both of those things? And do you even know yet? Like, how would you kind of go through that process?
That's the right angle, because budgets are tough. I mean, if there's one thing in working for a school district for over 20 years is, budgets drive decisions, and they have to be educated decisions. There's no doubt about it that there are going to be repercussions from everything that we're seeing now with the growth of the economy and with the state slowly opening. Smaller districts are going to get hit the hardest, and it's probably going to be immediate. So state aid plays a huge role in that piece. Budgets are ever shifting. Unfortunately, smaller schools will feel it the worst, and that's a real concern. So before I can dive deep into what's the best way to apply this to learning and education, you got to know what those numbers are, and you got to know where the shortfalls are, and you got to have a good plan
And prioritization, I would imagine.
Minimize impact. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So a couple more questions here, Nick, and one of them is if there was one thing that you could change about the district, like just from a continuous improvement standpoint or anything, like what do you think that might be for yourself? Like what, by you coming into this, you were to win, what would you want to do you think, to change?
So I think one of the biggest obstacles for us as a regional district is the regional aspect of it, right?
Mm.
So we have two towns that come together in grade 6, and we expect everything to be hunky-dory from them. You know, I think we can do our best to kind of enhance their experience in grades 6, 7, and 8. I know middle school sports was a big piece, and I know we have offered a few of those. I'm guessing they're going to look very different this winter in how they unfold, but basketball, soccer, volleyball, and track, I believe, are the 4 that we offer. You know, I think we need more opportunities to bring both towns together. So, you know, maybe that's introducing middle school softball. Maybe that's introducing, middle school baseball. Maybe there's a way to create the cohesiveness instead of, accentuate the divide that might exist with, Westwood Recreation versus Washington Township Recreation.
Okay.
The other part is then what we had mentioned before. Is there a plan for redistricting that can bring our students together earlier? If you're looking at a K2 model in schools, maybe if a building is 3-4, that's where we start to, get students to assimilate, more regularly on the regional side. Okay. It just seems like, and don't get me wrong, I think combining the football programs this year was the first time it happened. It was probably a long time coming and needed to happen, but they're all Westwood Cardinals. And if they don't grow up with that camaraderie, if we don't grow up with that unity, a separation exists. And sometimes we lose, students to a parochial school or to a county option or to some alternate private school district when they can be an excellent resource to Westwood Regional School District. So this regionality, I think that's one of our major obstacles.
Okay.
More classrooms is going to be the other one, but that's a whole nother discussion.
Yep, exactly. So 2 pretty big challenges there. So Nick, we're on the tail end here. So what I like to do to kind of end this out is, any final thoughts that you want residents to know about you, anything that you want to quickly kind of mention to kind of leave folks with before we end?
Yeah, so I'm going to hit on what we talked about before. Education is my pastime. I think I bring a lot of experience to the table, a lot of knowledge to the table. I know Mr. Kalish, who is the open seat on the Washington Township side, was a respected board member and did it for a long time. We really need a candidate that can hit the ground running and bring a good working knowledge to the table. And I think I do that. Mm-hmm. We did have a special election there. I also put my hat in the ring for that special election seat to fill that second open seat. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Again, I thought experience and knowledge brought to the table would be a huge bonus for the district. It didn't kind of work that way, but that's okay. Mm-hmm. I think we had 6 applicants apply for that special election seat. That in and of itself is a referendum on the community is looking for change. In some way, shape, or form, community members felt compelled enough to put themselves out there to assist the district, to assist with change, and to make things better in regards to education. So, I consider myself a change agent. I definitely look forward to the opportunity. I will represent the town with pride, and I think I can be a benefit to Westwood Regional Schools.
All right, Nick, thank you so much. And I really appreciate your time, and I want to wish you luck in the election. And it's almost here. I can't believe it. So, and I think that everyone appreciates you being on today and getting to know you a little bit better. So, like I had said before, I don't know if I mentioned this on live or not, but I'll be putting this on the public Facebook page that everyone has access, or most people have access to, and I'll also be sending you a copy of this video recording for yourself so you can use it just for your campaign. So, all right.
Awesome. Thank you, Bob, again for the opportunity. I really appreciate you organizing all this.
Yeah.
And go Cardinals.
Yeah. And good luck to you. Thank you so much for chatting with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Have a great
Have
afternoon.
a good day.
Bye-bye.